Recording in progress. All right. Hi, everyone, again. Yeah, what else? So, thank you so much for joining today. Thanks also for your donation. We usually do this for free, but we've realized over the years that, the Zoom license and all this kind of, it does, it doesn't pay itself. So thank you so much for donating the £1 or $1. If you would like to buy us coffee, virtual coffee, then we do have a Ko-fi page, which Lara and Tam will be posting in the chat sometime. We also have a website in case you would like to know what's going on within the UX writing meetup community here, FYI. All right, something organizational before I hand it over to you, Leila, promise. So please post any and all the questions that you have for our speaker, Leila, today in the chat. Lara, Tam, and I will be monitoring the chat. We'll be taking up your questions, and then we'll be throwing them back at you, Leila, at the very end. So feel free at any point in time, please just use the chat to post in some questions you've got. So we'll have a talk hosted by Leila today, and afterwards we'll have a quick Q&A session where you guys can also unmute yourselves and ask yourself, or we'll just use the questions from the chat. Exactly. All right. I think that was it for the organizational part. And with that, we have a super interesting talk today. By Leila. We already said it. Leila is from Zurich. She works at Ginetta, which is a leading digital agency within Switzerland. And I'm sure you're gonna do the introduction yourself, so I don't need to say too much about you before you get started. But we'll be hearing about how to start, designing as writers and not just write. So we heard this from someone before, Leila, that it also kind of depends on who is at the table, or like who is in the position to define your role maybe as well, or take your role seriously. So I think you've got a couple of tips on how to make sure you're taken seriously as a writer, even if you're in a room full of designers, for example. Yeah, and I think with that, if that's all right with you, I'll just hand over the mic to you in Zurich. The stage is yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Fiona, for the introduction. I hope you all hear me well. Otherwise, yes, let me know.
We do.
We do. Great. I start sharing my screen first. Wait a second.
Yes.
Yeah, do you see my screen? Hopefully you do.
We do, yeah, it's working.
Perfect. So thank you again, Fiona, for the introduction. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for organizing all this, Fiona, Tamara, and Lara. It's really exciting for me and an honor to talk, not to designers, not to UX, UI designers here at Ginetta, but really to talk to a folk, to you guys who are as passionate as I am about language, about digital experiences, about the whole tech world, about building digital products. So with this being said, let's kick it off, or let's start designing and not just writing. Important note, I will not talk about the craft today. I will really talk about the role, and more specifically about, and also more personally about my role. So whoever expects writing tips, you're more than welcome to leave now, because I will not share any writing tips. But yeah, my tips on how you can position yourself, or how I managed it to position myself best possible among lots of designers, and to hold my ground. So it's actually about my role today. So with this being said, I think it's time to introduce myself. As Fiona said, I'm Leila. I'm 33 years old. My hobbies are, no, just kidding. I will not talk about my hobbies, but what you want to know is what is my role. So my role is, the content designer here at Cineta, content designer maybe / UX writer. I have more than 4 years of experience. Talking about Cineta, who you already said it, Fiona. Cineta is a leading digital agency based in Zurich and founded in 2008. It was a design-only agency, but nowadays we offer services in strategy and engineering. And with this power force, with this unit, we can build digital products really from scratch, so from A to Z. And now when I'm talking about digital products, I really mean all digital products. You name it, we build it. So be it a mobile app or a corporate website, a customer portal, an embedded interface in a hardware, business apps, just a huge range of digital products. And we also serve any kind of industry. We are really strong in finance and banking and also insurance and pharma. But yeah, we also serve all the other industries. To give you a little glimpse into our client portfolio, we collaborated, for example, with ABB or Basler and Hofmann, Helsana, Hilti or IKEA, Migros or UBS. I'm sure you all know that giant bank, Swiss bank, or also SBB, it's the public transport here in Switzerland, and also Roche, the big pharma giant. Also, we worked for Twint or Swiss Re, reinsurance company. So as you see, like a lot of brands we work for. Beside like managers and sales, we are 6 strategists, 8 engineers, 28 designers, and me. So yeah, you see the, oh, what is this? Oh, sorry, this is a failure. Yeah. So you see the designer-writer ratio is 21 versus 28 versus 1. So yeah, it's really, it's horrible. It's, sorry for that. It's pretty sad, I would say, to see this ratio. And not only sad, but to be honest with you, it's also pretty, sorry about this 140. It's also really hard. Yeah, why is it hard? I mean, I can tell you one thing, to position yourself among 28 designers and to hold your ground and to have the greatest impact possible, to sit on the table like right from the beginning and not being the icing on the cake. You need to stop focusing on words. It's not about words. Yeah, throw it all away. Also sad. It's everything around words. It's everything behind words. It's everything before words. And it's everything afterwards. Yeah, this is it. So this leads me to my first tip on how to position yourself best possible around 28 designers in my case. It's to let designers look behind the words. What do I mean with that? Words are our, let's say, last deliverable, or better said, it's what they see. It's what designers see. It's what clients see. It's what actually at the end the end user sees on the user interface. So it's the outcome and the tip of the iceberg. But what's below the surface, no one can see. But you feel it because it's quite a lot of work. It's the whole process you go through, starting from strategy to content design to content creation. So it's a lot. It's really a lot. So really actually writing the final words is like max 20% of my work, really max. So this leads me to, or maybe going back, if you still have cognitive load, remember those words, creation, design, and strategy, because it's important for also my next tip. And my second tip is to make content an integral part of the design process. So in my case, or in Ginetta's case, that meant or still means for me to adapt my work to the 3 design phases, because the design phases at Ginetta are really elaborate and profound, and really they have a long history here, and they improved these phases. So they're working in 3 phases. After the strategy part, it comes the concept phase, the interface, and then the visual and specification phase. So these 3 waves you see. And underlying, I created my phases. And as you remember, we talked about before strategy, design, and creation. So these 3 pillars, or these 3 main constructs are also my phases names. So content strategy, content design, and content creation. So let's dive into content strategy, and what do I mean with that? Like really here at Ginetta, but maybe it gives you some input how you can set it up. So the content strategy I defined as the first phase, and I work in parallel and really collaborate closely with designers, but in intersection also with our strategists. So what we do, it's really a collaborative work, is defining content, formats, and language concepts to successfully implement the product strategy. And what we are focusing on is the user journey, the content goals, the content formats. We define the key messages, voice and tone. And what we deliver is a comprehensive document outlining the overarching content strategy, including goals, targets, audience, messaging, priorities, and so on and so forth. What leads me then, or us, to the second phase. In design language, it's the interface phase. In my language, is the content design phase. It goes along with the interface phase of the designers. So what I mean with this is also really important here. It's a collaborative work. And what we do is structuring, arranging and labeling content to make it easier to navigate and find information. And what we are focusing on in this phase is the information architecture, where we as writers can, for example, contribute with the right labeling. We can define together with the designers the key pages, the key page types, the key page structures, the layout, define which component comes where, the elements of the components, the attributes of these elements. And what we deliver at the end is a visualization of structured content, hopefully, and in best case, within a prototype, with detailed information about the components, as well as the arrangement and definition and attributes of their elements. And this leads us to the third wave. In design language, the visual phase. In my language, the content creation phase goes in parallel again. And what we are doing there, or actually this is one part of the whole process where I don't closely collaborate with the designers. Before, it was really a collaborative work in the concept and concept and interface phase. But in this last phase is rather what I do is writing then the copy. So it's really the UX writing that resonates with the user needs and goals to increase the performance. You all know that. hopefully. So what I focus on in UX writing is clarity, conciseness, consistency. It should be action-oriented, user-centered, context-aware, and people first. And what I deliver is actually really the copy for the prototype at the end. And by making this clear that I work in parallel with the designers, and by really showing them what I have to bring to the table, and that I really work hand in hand and adapt to their faces, I could really manage to have a really fruitful collaboration with design. And design now at Ginetta influences the content, and the content influences the design. There is a fourth phase in the case of content. Maybe they are doing some specifications they hand over regarding the designs. But for me, there is the fourth wave is all about the content implementation. So what I do there is really providing tools to create and migrate content, maybe existing content or new content, efficiently, purposefully, and on a common basis. So what we focus on is efficiency, quality, and alignment. And it's actually then what we deliver, or what I deliver, is a creation guide and or templates with practice examples and links to important key documents for a comprehensive understanding of everything, of the content strategy, the structure and the goals, and really the details of maybe a key page type. So that was more or less let's say, the part with the most cognitive load. And for some of you, it's really maybe overwhelming. But I just wanted to show you that I work in parallel, and I really defined in one slide per each phase what I do, or what we do, what we are focusing on, and what I actually deliver, and what I contribute in each phase of design. And within a lot of projects, I could really show designers, and this is my third tip, that I am, and you should show it too, that you are unicorns among writers. What do I mean with that? So you and myself, I am not only a copywriter, and I'm not only a content strategist, and I'm not only an information architect. I'm really, or not only a technical writer, I'm all of it together in one person. So I'm a unicorn, I would say. So while other writers really focus on the business part mainly, and other writers maybe mainly on the user, and again, other writers mainly on the product, you cover it all. So you are focused on the user, the product, and the business, and this is where the magic happens. And also the skill set. For example, other writers have their skill set maybe mainly in this section, or their skill profile looks like that, and maybe looks like that, maybe looks like this. And you cover it all again. So you're really profound or expert in strategy design, writing, creating content design systems or specifications. So because I cover it all, in my case, and this is maybe also a tip for you, I changed my job title from UX writer to content designer, because I really co-create and I design digital products from the beginning to the end. So if you don't change your top title, at least think about it. So the best is in the top title, we know. So my journey was from this UX writer mainly to really a content designer, or maybe you can think about name yourself a content designer and UX writer, or a content designer who also does UX writing. So with this checklist, so these 4 tips let designers have a look behind the words, make content an integral part of the design process, show designers that you are a unicorn among writers, and maybe change your top job title. If you do it all, and this was in my case really successful, you begin to transform from this, maybe in my case also, lonely writer girl to really be a part of the design team, part of the design unit, and that other designers, UX, UI designers, motion designers, really see you as a designer. So now it's not 28 designers and me, it's really 28 designers, including me. And that really makes me proud and makes work a lot more fun. And yes, this was already it. I shortened it a bit because I was too late. Sorry for that again. And yes, I really hope it was not too much for you and not too fast. I'm a fast speaker. I really want to say thank you for showing up today and hopefully to take something with you. I'm also willing to share my slides if you want to have a closer look at it. And I would also love to stay in contact with you guys. Yeah. If you have any questions or anything you want to add, please feel free to do.
Thank you so much, Leila. Thanks for for all the insights. I mean, this is n=1, right? But I completely and totally understand what you're talking about. So thank you for, bringing that to into a talk and bringing all the tips to the table that worked for you in your position.
Yeah, it was. You say it, Fiona. It's really different from setting to setting. In my case, these steps really helped me to be seen as a designer at the end, because that's what we are.
So we have a couple of questions that I'll just throw at you, if that's all right.
Yes.
Anyone who is listening, please feel free to chime in anytime. But one of the questions was just a bit more generic, like how long of a process was this? So how long did it take you to make this shift from like the writer on the outside to the writer or content designer on the inside? Was this a week, a month, 5 years?
It was, I have to be honest, as I said, I think it was this slide here. Wait a second, I really want to find it because it describes my journey best, I would say. It was hard. It was really hard and it was really time consuming. I think maybe the process from call myself a UX writer and also be seen as just a writer towards, I call myself now a content designer who also does UX writing, this transition, and that really the team here see my value that I can bring to the table from beginning on. Whole process, it took me 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at Ginetta 4 years, but really the whole process started maybe 1 year after I joined, because first of all, I really needed to learn how this whole company works and how the designers are working, about these design phases. It was really 1 year just learning by watching, and then maybe 1 year really investigating and asking the right questions, talking to the right people. And then maybe in the 3rd and 4th year, I really created this whole framework of, hey, these are my faces, this is what I can deliver. And then I really started to give frequently input sessions and talks. We have a format here at Ginetta once a week where you can talk to the company and present something you worked on or a big achievement. And I just regularly showed up there and shared some of my results in projects, but really also shared my tools that I work with, or even more important, the phases and what I am focusing on each phase. Yes, does this answer your question?
For sure, yeah. Thank you for, I hope it does. But
3 years. That's
yes,
the
feel free to chime in, anyone, but I think that answered the question. So if you were to take like a prototypical project 3 years ago that you worked on, and a project where you're working on now, because Ginetta is an agency, right? So you have different clients, different projects. If you look at a prototypical project from 3 years and today, in like a couple of sentences, what's the difference in how you act in that setting, in that project setting?
It depends a bit on how I collaborate with designers, like more this internal point of view, or
Mhm.
how I communicate and collaborate also with our clients. These are two, let's say, different worlds, but I have to
Yeah, for sure.
both of them. Like I need to sell myself in front of the client and also show
Mhm.
them the value I can bring to the table, but really also make it easy for designers to work with me. So I would say 3 years ago, I think I should wait a second. I will search for the best slide to calculate. Yeah, I think 3 years ago, I joined most of the projects, or they asked for my help and my support in the last design phase,
Yeah,
third wave, the visual design phase. So, and you can see my phase then is the content creation, and that means the UX writing. Like I joined really late in the whole process, and they asked me to, yeah, what we usually hear, like, do your magic. Can you change the copy? Or there is no copy. Can you create copy? Um, and that was 3 years ago. And
hmm hmm
later, I really have a seat on the table in the concept phase. So I shape together with them the concept, because I don't want to say, and that was never my intention, that I do better concepts, but I look at the concept really early on from a different view and a different angle
Yeah, for sure.
than designers. And when these two views and these two people, the designer and the language specialist, content designer, when these views come together, we have a full picture. So it's really, I would encouraging you, the most important part of the whole process is actually the concept phase, because when you
Yeah,
miss that and you don't have a say in that, in this phase in it, when you don't have a say in it in the first phase, the concept phase, it's, yeah, then you do just,
absolutely.
then you are the icing on the cake at the end. And
Hmm
that was so frustrating 3 years ago, because when I looked at a copy, I didn't just look at the copy, I really looked at the whole user flow. And sometimes I was like, but hey, there is information missing or a step missing, or have you thought about that? Or the information hierarchy, I would do it differently. So, and then they were saying like, the project is almost over, we don't have any more time left. So yeah, just do the copy, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really being part of the whole brain work that gets put into like the beginning phase, right? Like the plan basically for a digital product or a product in
Yeah,
general.
it's really, yeah,
Hmm
it's really about the
Great.
architecture, about the structure of a screen or of a page. It's about the concept, it's about the user flow.
hmm
So really step in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question here from a non-agency perspective, right? You work at an agency, and we have Vanessa here who is asking, I work in a company, not an agency. So how could Vanessa talk up content design or content creation to people who don't understand digital media and still work with a picture and a tagline? So Vanessa says she gets excited about infographics and ways to add value to customer journeys, but she only gets briefs for a product picture with benefits, So like, how can she do this within not an agency setting, but like I'm assuming like a corporate company setting more.
I'm not sure if I understood what the question is about. So okay, I understood, like it's in a company setting
Mhm.
and you work on specific products that you provide as company?
Yeah, so I'll jump in.
Perfect.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
yes.
this. Is really interesting.
Hi.
So basically it's exactly what you said. I get brought in at content creation and content implementation, and most often it's they want to show the product and say what benefits it gives to the customer, but they're ignoring the entire customer journey about how to make that decision. It's a health product, so there's different things that it does, like how it gets absorbed into the body, which I find really exciting in terms of a infographic or demonstrating that visually. But right now, all I get is a brief for here, show the product, and here's the 5 benefits that it gives, which bores me to tears because I've been working with this product for years. And there's only so many ways you can say the same thing. So how do I get involved more upfront, and kind of convince them that there's a different way to lead people through that buying process? And it's just, I think they don't think about digital, like they don't realize that there's so much, that it's all about giving value. Yeah.
I mean, at the end, each of our also joint decision, if we are, for example, implementing at some point of the user journey an infographic, for example, instead of just text, or I mean, it's always based on experience, and you can say that like my experience is, or it's based on best practices, and in best case heuristics you can refer to make your argument why something needs to change. But at the end, what really counts and what they see as valuable is when user tests can prove that it's really better to go with version B than with version A, or to show an infographic at this point of the journey and not a text, as I said. So I think, yes, you can have your arguments based on heuristics, your experience, and you can really sit together with them and discuss it. But at the end, what will convince internal stakeholders, or then at the end also external or your clients, is our numbers. At the end, it's always the same. But what I can, or did this answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, what just kind of dawned on me is that we don't do any testing. We're not comparing one version to another. And it's a very top-down marketing
Yeah, like
approach. So
driven. Yeah.
there's not a lot going back up to the top. So yeah, so that's I think an interesting point that I can try to push through, like give different ways, and get more data.
And if you don't have like a lot of resources to do that, because user research, or then at the end user tests, are quite intense in terms of resources, so you need money, you need time, etc. But you could also go for some research methods to prove your solution with, for example, I don't know, a quick user test, but within the company with some, I don't know, random people in your company. What I sometimes do is really, I call it, or I think it's officially the term, the hallway testing. So just ask people here to and show them version A and B, and or to ask them to fill in some gaps in a text. And like there are some really low, how do you say, some research methods you can handle by yourself, and also who are not really resource intense.
Yeah. cool. I think like there's one question that goes in a similar direction. If I may throw that one in here. Because what you're saying, Vanessa, is also like people within your company also not seeing you as just the writer, right? Like the content creator, the content implementer.
I feel it.
Yeah. And there's a similar question here from Uyen. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But how do you handle the clients, but also internally in a company, right? How do you handle people who still see you as the person who puts the words in? Because in our team, so Uyen's team, designers are more than happy to work with us as early as possible. But the perception is still complicated on the stakeholders side. So people who probably don't know the design process or what it needs to create a product or a service. And they would often address their content concerns directly to the designers instead of the content creators or the content designers. So how would you handle a situation like this? I mean, this can be internally as well as externally, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, yeah. At the end, what I learned is at the beginning, I was really frustrated and I was also angry. And I wanted always to raise my hand when we have, for example, a client meeting and we presented something, and actually I had a big say in it and what we presented as a team. I really contributed a lot beside the words. And I really wanted to point that out. So, hey, that was me. I had this great idea, or I came up with the products, like with the structure of the page, or I came up with the whole concept. Like, I really wanted to prove my value in front of the client. And then I realized I shouldn't do that, because at the end, it's a joint decision we took, designers and myself together, and it's kind of one deliverable that we handed over. And in each check-in with our clients, whatever we show, it's a team effort, and it doesn't matter if it comes from the content designer or the UX writer or the UX UI designer. So I gave up on that battlefield. So what I struggled most with is, and maybe that's also your struggle, I'm not sure, is not that I wasn't seen as valuable in projects, in ongoing projects. They saw me, they hear me, the clients, but to be part of new projects. So we have a new client, we have a new project. There I always had to fight to be even part of the project team. So in my case, it was really hard to kind of, let's say, teach sales. So we have a sales team here, I think 6 people, and they initially have to sell our services, prove the value of our services, and say, hey, client A, we for your problem, and then building the solution, we will recommend you to have a team of 2 designers, a researcher, and a content designer or UX writer. And this was the hardest part, to really prove the value even before the project kicked off. Because when I once worked together with the client on one project, they saw kind of the improved quality at the end. So when we would run another project with the same client, it was no question to have Leila as part of the team. But this initial selling effort to prove, hey, it's valuable to have you as a content designer on the team, that was hard. This took me really a lot of time, but not to sell myself directly to the client, but to sell myself to the sales team, because sales needed to understand what they have as arguments to then go to the client and say, hey, our proposal is that we have Leila on the team, because she brings value this and this way, and she can deliver and contribute in this and this phase. These are her deliverables at the end. So yeah, that was tough. A lot of presentations were needed, and a lot of also material I handed over to sales team that they understand and that they can use for then sales pitches, for example.
I think that's a really good point with like speaking to the right people, the people who influence the like putting together teams, right? Making sure they understand the value as well. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah,
and I just had a, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because she said it's not that the designers, did I understand correctly? The designers, they see your value, they like to work with you, but maybe not the clients and not internal stakeholders.
Yeah, indeed. If I may, it's just that so it's a company, it's not an agency, and the way we work is that the stakeholder will talk first to the designer, and the designer will then have a meeting with us and present us the project, and we work together. The thing is, as the project goes by, the stakeholder will address all that question to the designer and not to us, while we may be more able to answer some really specific content question than the designer. And the thing is, the designer is in the middle, and he needs to be the person who just report the question to us, and that's really a loss of time. And we're trying very hard. Even the designers are trying very hard to just like, okay, we have content designers, so it's their role to do that. But yeah, it's still complicated.
I do understand the pain point. Also, they always said when I wanted to have a seat on the table, they said, "Hey, there are already too much people on the table." I know that, and it's still sometimes a struggle for me, because what you said, that the designers, let's say your microphone also, and like the middleman, and he needs to make these connections between the team and the internal stakeholder. But if it wouldn't be a designer, it could also be a content designer or UX writer in the position of this middleman. But I think stakeholders, they need someone to talk to, like a go-to person, and this go-to person can then share their informations they got from the stakeholders to the whole team. This is always kind of a problem. Yeah. I mean, educate the designer who is in charge, who is the middleman, educate them to really be mindful about what you need to do your work.
Yes.
Maybe with checklists you give them, or with certain questions, a set of questions they always have to ask the stakeholder before they going back to you. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think let's have time for like maybe one more question, if that's all right, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So we have a question from, we actually have a comment which I'd like to read from Martin here, just before I ask, and ask the last question. So sometimes you just need to be a little badass and conquer your place at the table. On the one hand with good work, and on the other hand with just a little bit of attitude, right? So never just become the copy guy or copy girl, basically. Which absolutely, be loud, take the space that that you should be taking in. I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Yes, 100%. I agree 100%. I almost overdid that. Like at one point I was really so loud and so frustrated and angry. I almost had a bad energy around me because I was so frustrated at one point. And when I really at one point I let it all go, and I just showed up with good energy, but still I was I never I was always loud, and this is really something you need to remember, because otherwise you need to be louder. Imagine we are 28 designers here and one content creator, so a content designer, so myself, and imagine 28 voices versus mine. So I need to be loud, otherwise I don't have a chance. So when designers actually said, "Oh, Leila, you are so like bold and loud," and sometimes they really meant it in a bad way, I said, "Yeah, I need to be loud. I'm the only one." So yeah,
absolutely.
it's a good idea.
So one last question, because we were talking about the difference between like being called a UX writer and being called a content designer. And Barbara here, she's asking if the title content designer doesn't cause confusion. For example, like with the stakeholders or maybe in job ads, maybe even with like your clients, I'm not sure. And then she says, I imagine that people have a better understanding what a UX designer does than what a content designer does. So have you encountered that, like that difficulty in what you call yourself, or how do you engage with that problem basically?
It is a problem. I mean, we have a problem with the term content designer because some people assume it's kind of the content designer, they do videos, they create images. No, maybe I define the place for the image or the video, but I don't create the video. So I totally understand. I think it's a problem that will go on and on and on and on. At one point, I even wanted to call myself just a language expert or a linguist, or I don't know, because still I'm not sure about the term content designer. For me, the UX writer, because the term writer really refers to writing, and writing, we all know, everyone writes. So, and I heard also from client side, like a lot, they told me, yeah, we have writers. We don't need one. Yeah, you have marketing writers, for example. But I do something else. I'm more a product developer. We create products. So, and talking about UX designer, I would also love to call myself a UX designer because we design user experiences. So yeah, I hear your struggle, and I think what works best for you in your setting, you should choose, find that out. In terms of like in front of clients, we often still use the term UX writer because they are kind of familiar with the term, but they don't know what it's all behind. But internally, I really started to call myself a content designer. And when I'm not sure, I really go for the content designer / UX writer. But yes, this is something we cannot solve, I guess. Every title has its pros and cons.
Absolutely agree. I guess it also depends on like the context that you're in, right?
Yeah.
Leila, you're working with a lot of designers, and that word being a designer has like this impact with the clients that you're working with. It resonates with them because that's what they're looking for, right? So for that context, being a content designer maybe works better than in a different context. I don't know, just speculating here. But I totally agree. I think not sure we're going to get to the point where we all have this one job title that covers everything that we do.
Yeah, I agree. It also, in terms of, in my case, it was also because we really wanted to make the content part of the whole process, and it was better for us, and it worked better in our offering that we handed over to the client. And when they saw the team, we just said, hey, we have three designers on the project, or two, and one of these designers is actually a content designer. But then we don't question it too much, because when they read the term UX writer, they only see the word writer, and then the feedback was always, oh, we have writers, thank you so much, but we don't need another one.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting there as UX writers / content designers. All right, I think with that, I mean, there are still a couple of questions in the chat. So maybe you would like to pose these questions directly to Leila on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if that's okay for you, Leila, but reach out somewhere to her directly to ask these questions.
100%. Especially when there are about these design phases and like the content strategy, design and content creation and all my in between deliverables and what I focus on. I think this was a bit like too much into details. So and it was also too fast. If the questions are around that topic, I'm more than willing to give you answers.
Perfect. That actually was another question here. If we can share the slides, and I'll just pose the question directly to you, Leila. Would it be possible to share these slides that you prepared for today within our meetup channel?
Yes.
People who were part of this meetup, basically. Is that possible for you? Is that?
I will quickly check with internal
Yes,
stakeholders
absolutely.
that I don't publish anything I shouldn't, but I think it should be no problem. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, just let us know and no problem if not.
Great.
All right, I think with that, thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for staying, thanks for listening, and most importantly, thank you to you, Leila, for sharing all your knowledge on being one writer in the midst of 28 designers. I think a couple of us can relate. And with that, our next meetup will be in 2 months. There is not yet a fixed date. Am I right, Lara and Tam? Yeah, we don't have a date yet, a specific date yet. But we'll be posting that on our website as well as our meetup group. So hopefully we'll see a couple of you then and there again.